So, welcome back to the Telco Drift, a podcast exploring tech, telecoms, and other sci-fi stories. And I'm very excited about this episode because finally I convinced Remy to join me on the show. So, Remy, welcome to the Drift.
Well, thanks for having me, Pablo.
So, first of all, for analysts covering telco infrastructure, they probably know you quite well, but we have some people listening, I assume, that are really not so much within the industry. So, can you just give a quick introduction about sort of what you're doing for a living and why do you think you've been invited here?
Yeah, so basically, I'm in charge of the mobile infrastructure research at Omdia, and this team covers the mobile access, so the RAN, the core, and mobile edge. I'm based in Seoul, in Korea, and we have a team in Beijing and London, and we're sort of known for our forecasts, market share work, vendors benchmark, operator survey, and generally tracking the key trends in terms of market trends and technology trends in this mobile infrastructure space. So yeah, that's what we do.
So you have been invited because you need to convince me on 6G. As you know, I'm always a skeptic on everything. So I want to try to get your views on sort of the other side. So why do we need 6G? What is happening with 6G? Why it's gonna be, or it's not, maybe it's not gonna be such a big thing. Um, but you were working in the wine industry before though. You had a part of your life where you no, am I inventing that?
I'm interested in it, but I've never worked in the wine industry now.
My memory is terrible. But you did do a sommelier course or something, or am I getting that wrong
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well?
yeah. Just a hobby, right?
Ah, that's quite good. Yeah, we should have like a separate segment on that. But
Okay.
let me try to focus on what's ahead now. So first question is gonna be pretty straightforward. Why do we need 6G at this point in time with everything that is happening in the tech space?
Yeah, so that's a fair question that is being asked to us regularly. But I think I can sort of strike back with a question myself. Is like, do you think that mobile networks today are perfect? Do you think that they already deliver everything that we need today, but also that they will be capable of delivering everything we need in terms of connectivity for the next 10 or 15 years? It's obviously a rhetorical question. The answer is of course no. I mean, in all technology areas, it's in computing and AI, there's gigantic progress, and I don't see why we should stop innovation in networking and in mobile networks in general. We need to continue improving in terms of capacity of the network, in terms of coverage, especially for remote areas, for inside buildings. We will need to support new services, new applications, things like physical AI and all that good stuff. Um, so, I mean, if the underlying question is, do we need to make a big marketing splash about 6G and tell everyone that 6G will, change their life and change the world? I don't think we need to do that. Um, uh, Perhaps I would even say, to be a bit provocative, that maybe we don't need to bother the end consumers with the concept of 6G. But when it comes to the telecom community, to the operators, I think they should be very excited about 6G, very interested, because their mobile network is their main asset. And I mean, innovation. I mean, who can be against innovation and progress? Certainly not you, I
Lots
guess.
of people. But so effectively, it's kind of 6G is a way of sharpening the tool that telcos is like making the network better, more efficient, and like better coverage and so on and so forth. But I agree with you, like we shouldn't bother with consumers because I don't think a consumer, what is like consumer enterprise would really care about 6G, unless there is like a clear benefit for them. But I don't think a higher performing network is of particular interest for the consumer. And
No,
but
that's fair.
about where we are now in the journey, sort of, multiple releases, multiple working groups, and everything. How far are we? And what is very interesting for me is, are verticals, marketing, we're talking about manufacturing, mining, whatever, having a role within the development of 6G? Because there's been like talks for a long time of how sort of the telco industry should bring more and more people to help with standardization. Is that really happening?
Yeah, so I think two parts question. In terms of the progress, I think it's progressingly relatively well in terms of the standardization with the different, milestones. And the timeline now is relatively clear. In terms of research and development activities from the vendors as well, I think we are hearing that there's pretty good progress. There are, prototypes of the technology and trials and so on. Then there are also all the political initiatives, the formation of coalitions and so on. So generally, I think there's a pretty good progress. We are more or less where we should be to meet that timeline of 2030. I mean, it may even be a little bit earlier than that. And then the when it comes to the verticals involvement, I think it's fair to say and relatively accurate to say that uh, there is more involvement than in the previous generations at the same stage. Having said that, it's very uneven because it really depends by sector. So I think there's relatively good involvement in some areas, and much less, or perhaps even not at all, in others. And the ones that you expect are the ones that are the most involved. So I think you mentioned a few already, but probably manufacturing and industrial sort of manufacturing is one. Automotive and maybe transport in general is another one. Space, of course, public safety. So there are a few where there is clearly a pretty decent level of involvement, and there are probably others where it's not the same. But
A lot of those are like industrial verticals. So do you think we could see a resurgence of fan favorite private 5G?
oh, sorry, I didn't hear what you.
Do you think that because of the involvement of many industrial verticals, sort of the underlying assumption is that those verticals, they see a benefit in cellular? So do you think that come 6G, there can be a resurgence in the relevance of private 5G, which is the fan favorite market for everyone?
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. You know better than me. I think I think there are already a lot of the capabilities for this kind of private 5G architecture in 5G. On that specific point, I'm not sure what 6G would bring that is particularly additional, but it has general improvements that I would certainly apply to private networks as well. So if you improve capacity, that's relevant for public as well as private networks. If you improve latency, that's probably even more relevant for some private network case than for the public networks. If you improve reliability, if you improve security, if you improve coverage in remote areas, all these things, I guess, can apply to both the public and private networks.
And yeah, from my point of view, I do expect a big resurgence on private. It's a bit like sort of ups and downs, right? With the hype and everyone is in, and then like now we're a little bit in a downturn, but then eventually it's gonna get up again. It's like new features and again better performing network, and there is that underlying interest from vertical,
Mhm.
which is eventually sort of that's the demand side of things. But one of the reasons why I was asking is because I'm trying to understand what what's the recipe for success with 6G, and we know that maybe let me ask you this first. Um, Was 5G successful for you? I know like a lot of people have different opinions. So do you think that it was successful in what was meant to be doing? Was it maybe successful just for the vendors for sure? But, and then what's the recipe for success for 6G?
Yeah, so I mean, definitely there were some issues. There are a few things that didn't really work. I mean, there's the most obvious from the network perspective is probably the famous NSA architecture. I think also the expectations that were set were probably a bit unreasonable, and therefore the industry has not delivered on some of these things. So it was not a complete success for sure. At the same time, I'm not really one for 5G bashing. So one way I look at it is if I look at the mobile networks today, in 2026, like 5G networks in 2026, and I compare that with what we had 10 years ago, say in 2016 with 4G networks, I think again, in terms of is it perfect? No. But has there been a significant improvement in terms of mobile networks in the last 10 years? I'd say generally yes. Of course, it depends on how much operators are investing and so on. But I'd like to see the glass half full rather than half empty in that case. And I think it will be the same with 6G. It's a little bit tough to frame the question as do we need do we need a new generation, a new technology, or not? Uh, I think as long as it delivers significant improvement over the previous generation, then it's justified. And it's improvement across different things. It's not just higher speeds. Of course, it's reliability, it's availability, it's affordability, it's security, energy efficiency, and so on. But for me, if there is a significant improvement, then that justifies it. The question of whether we need it or not, it's how many things do we really need, right? Sometimes I use this analogy of the highway. Well, I didn't invent it for sure, but it's like if you want to go from Rome to Milan, do you need the highway? No, you don't. I mean, you can take the small roads if you want. They're probably even more
They're
beautiful.
panoramic. Yeah.
But if you don't want to spend the whole day in the car, it's pretty nice to have the highway, right? So, do you need the highway? Well, I don't know, but it's progress, and for the networks, you can think that's the same. Do we really need it? Perhaps not. It's need is not the right word, but is it something we should be welcoming in terms of an improvement and continuous progress? Then I would say yes. So
It's like not, it's not,
yeah.
the question is not if it's needed, but it's what is useful,
Mhm.
kind of.
Yeah, in a sense.
So effectively, all those developments would be useful, whether people understand it or not. So, like, again, did I have internet 10 years ago on my phone? I honestly don't remember. That's like too far back. But now I definitely use the phone like every day. And then probably with 6G, I'm gonna use the phone a little bit more every day, I assume.
Mm.
So yeah, I think that those are very, very valid point. Um, but and you so you mentioned a couple of things with 5G that didn't really click as they should have. So one was NSA, and then there were some promises. So do you think that the industry has learned the lesson? So you think that sort of 6G will not make similar mistakes? We're going to be more pragmatic.
Yeah, I mean, to be very specific, if we take the point of NSA, it seems to be a lesson learned because obviously not everything is set in stone quite yet for 6G, but in terms of that aspect of the architecture, it seems that there's a relatively good consensus in the industry that 6G should be SA by default, and therefore avoiding the same mistake. So I think we're learning. I mean, say we as an industry. Another example is dynamic spectrum sharing (DSS), which also was not necessarily a great success in 5G. But in 6G, there's sort of an evolution of that called MRSS, so multi-rat spectrum sharing, which let's not get into all the technical detail, but essentially there's a pretty clear path for improving an existing concept and making it more efficient and so on. So yeah, I do think that clearly the industry is learning from past mistakes, and that at least on those specific points, it's being addressed. Now, have the marketing teams learned their lessons, and will they
Nah.
not hype the new 6G? I don't know. We'll see that. But from a technical perspective, I think the mistakes are not usually repeated.
And yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's good to hear that from perspective. Okay, you guys are smart, so you're learning your lessons. I'm not saying that marketing not smart, by the way, but I that's their job, right? Hyping up things.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's very difficult to be marketing without hyping up whatever you're
sure.
promoting, because it's a promoter. So I do think that same mistakes are bound to happen, just because that's what you do. Probably, hopefully, it's gonna be a little bit less than before, but it's like, with hype, everything has to be more. It's like, I don't know, when you're watching, I don't know, an anime or a cartoon, there's like the big boss, and that's the toughest boss ever. Then next season there's like a boss that's even tougher, and then again, you keep just piling up. And I think that's the same. It's gonna be the same thing for marketing. But something else, still great with CG, of course. But of course, yeah, I need to put AI every now and then, so I can hashtag AI in everything that I do. How much is AI important into this whole 6G conversation? And how tightly connected is the AI RAM set of developments with what's happening with 6G?
Yeah, it's very central. So I mean, there's a strong link. I'll start by saying, of course, we won't need to wait until 6G to see AI being used and integrated into mobile networks. It's already sort of happening from today. But the key difference is that 5G sort of pre-existed AI, or at least AI as we know it today, and therefore the AI is enhancing 5G, enhancing something that existed before. And the key distinction with 6G is that AI would be, or will be, integrated from the beginning in the design of the technology itself. So that's the distinction being made between AI enhanced, and that's 5G, and AI native, that's 6G, right? So there will be a lot more things that can be done in terms of having the right compute resources to support that AI in the network, addressing more use cases, and so on. And I would also say that AI is really needed. I mean, by 6G, 6G really needs AI because, um, as we've said before, 6G needs to justify its existence in some way, and so to justify itself, 6G needs to bring a significant improvement. But the thing is, it's very difficult to improve using the same traditional methods that we've used so far, because things are already extremely optimized in the current algorithms and things like that. Uh, so if you take the example of spectral efficiency, as of today, it's already very optimized. But what we are seeing now with the current proof of concept and announcement and claims made by the technology provider is that the use of AI instead of traditional algorithm is allowing to get to those significant enhancements. So we're not talking about 1 or 2% better spectral efficiency. We're now talking in terms of double digits or even triple digits kind of improvements. And that is only possible with AI because these things have been optimized pre-AI for many, many years or even decades. But now AI is bringing that sort of step change into spectral efficiency. And there are other areas, but that's just to give an example of how AI is being applied to significantly improve the network. So that's what people may call, AI for RAN or AI for networks, more like in more general terms. And then you have the other side of the coin, which is, networks for AI. So here the idea is to that the network has a role to play in the delivery of AI applications. Again, it's not that there won't be many AI applications or services that really need 6G. It's more that the delivery of these services will be significantly better with 6G than they are with 5G. So it's again more of a question of significant improvement rather than a question of need or no need, essentially. So that
So,
sort of how I would look at it.
I mean, the significant improvement is for the telco, though, right? For how the telco is delivering the it does not necessarily translate to the consumer, or does it?
Well, if you think of the AI for networks, that's purely a telco benefit. So it's more performance, it's lower cost, and things like that. So that is true. But if you think of the other one, networks for AI, it would impact the consumer or the enterprise user potentially because simply you may have an accelerated delivery of your AI applications. You may have improvement again in terms of latency and so on. So there might be some benefits in terms of the AI application experience thanks to more higher performance networks, basically.
One of the things that I just came to mind as a consumer, our problem is that we have a short memory and high expectations no matter what, right? So you can have a better network and that sort of deliver baseline experience. And for us, that improvement becomes the baseline that we expect everything to happen, right? So can 6G, you're going to have a better network, a better experience, and that becomes okay. That's the bare minimum,
Yeah.
and then it becomes harder, as a telco to say, look, you are having like a better experience. That's why you should pay more money. I'm like, no, that's what I expect from you now. Uh, but I'm sure there's going to be trick around. But so we're talking about AI. So how big and how revolutionized is NVIDIA push into the sector in your view? And NVIDIA is tight partnership with Nokia. If we can elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah, so I mean, they've been very present in the last sort of 2 years. They played a key role in sort of promoting, if not inventing, this concept of AI RAN. They were also very involved, for example, in the creation of that AI RAN alliance and in a lot of the initiatives and trials and demonstration of what's feasible. So if you think in terms of the significance of telecoms for NVIDIA, maybe it's not so huge today, at least in terms of revenue. It's not like NVIDIA is reporting a segment like called telecoms in their financial or anything like that. So you could say it's still sort of a relatively small thing for them. At the same time, if you look at, as you say, the number of partnerships that have been signed, NVIDIA Nokia is probably the most significant and well known. But NVIDIA has also a lot of partnerships with other vendors and with operators themselves, in tens of partnerships. And they're really also at the center of a lot of these conversations. So I think in terms of their ambitions and in terms of their commitment, it's quite significant, and I think we can say also it's growing when we compare with what they were doing in this sector a few years ago. So Yeah, it depends how you look at it, but I think they are becoming a significant player in telecoms with AI RAN, but it goes beyond the concept of AI RAN, obviously.
So we can expect effectively when, let's say in 3 years from now, I invite you again as a guest on like what's going to be like a massive podcast, of course, by the time. And if we're looking at the key vendors in the telco landscape, NVIDIA would by then likely be one of the players shaping up things.
Yeah, I
Or
don't know if
that's a little bit too out
um,
there.
I don't know if 3 years is the right time frame though, because a lot of the opportunities for them will come from the next cycle. And so 3 years might be still a little bit early. Of course, there will be some early adoption of NVIDIA technology in um, again, here I'm talking really specifically about the mobile infrastructure because, again, obviously NVIDIA is doing a lot of things with telecom operators in other areas, in more of the IT side of things and so on. So, but just focusing on the mobile network itself. Um, so yeah, I think there will be a more significant player definitely, but then it's also a matter of I mean it's at the end of the day it's the decision of operators. Whether they are convinced or not by the pitch, um, um, we don't know for sure. It will depend on a lot of things, performance, cost, and so on. But definitely, I can only see their role growing, not shrinking, right?
Yes, so it's fun for me because there are these two or three huge companies that seem to be wanting to do everything and getting their hands everywhere. And so the other one, of course, that comes to mind for me is SpaceX. It just wants to do whatever it is, everything that they can possibly think of. But sometimes you can do everything. Sometimes, oh, apparently they can, but probably they shouldn't. We just have a couple of minutes. So first, I want to ask you about a development that was very hot a few years back, but seemed to me that went out of favor from a lot of people, and that's, or is it still alive? Uh, do we care about it?
Um, yes, it's still alive. It
That's
depends
good.
what you do in life, whether you care about it or not. But I think Oran will stay. I'll start with that. Um, it is. I'll give you that. It is not really a concept that is absolutely central to the telecom operator business, in the
Okay.
sense that it's not something that will generate any new revenue for them. We also don't think that it's something that will reduce their cost significantly. Cost reduction is achievable through modernization. So if ORAN is part of a modernization effort, then you may have cost saving, but open interfaces per se are not magically generating cost savings. Nonetheless, I think it's still quite important from the technical perspective and for the network people, and also in terms of supply chain management. So really, for me, the value proposition of Open RAN is optionality. So for me, in ORAN, the O means open, but it should also mean optionality or optional or option. You get the point.
Yeah. So
And
we go back to,
optionality is good. I mean,
yeah.
when it's great to have options, right? If you're a buyer of technology, it's I think nobody will argue with the idea that having more options is a good thing. Clearly it's a good thing. Then whether the operators decide to activate their options, it's up to them, you know. But just having options is really important, and that's what ORAN is giving. So yeah, it's very important for CTOs. But is it very important for operators, CEO, and CFOs? Maybe less.
That's just in life. It's good to have options. Whether you take
Yeah,
them or not, doesn't
who
really
doesn't like
matter.
options?
Yeah, as long as you have them. So let's wrap it up in 1 minute, and I always try to chat a little bit about sci-fi or similar things. Do you have any recommendation on the genre? Are you a fan of the genre? And then we can just close this down within the allotted time.
Recommendation on a cultural recommendation, you mean, right?
Yeah, movies, TV shows. It could be sci-fi. And I mentioned, I know, like
Yeah.
in France, you have some really cool horror stuff, but I don't think that's you.
Um, yeah, no, actually, and I mean, you told me about this question, so I thought about it a little bit, and and we'll sort of reconnect with that topic of wine. So recently, I watched this series called Drops of God. It's on Apple TV. Uh, it's based on a manga from a Japanese manga, and it's a story about wine, about family relationships, and about inheritance. And there's a little bit of sci-fi in it. I'm not sure it would be classified as sci-fi, but there's definitely some mystery. And yeah, I'd really recommend that to anyone. Not you don't need to be interested in wine. It's just a good show, especially the season one. So that will be my recommendation for
And
your
is,
audience.
is is the show finished, or are we in the middle of waiting for other like
Uh,
four
Yeah,
seasons or something?
I'm not sure. The second season is finished. I'm not sure there will be anything beyond that second season,
Okay, that's good. Yeah, because
but there
I
have
can't
been
be
two
bothered
so
with
far. Yeah.
waiting for like ages. I'm watching the House of the Dragon, and next season's gonna come in 2028. I can't be bothered with that. Love the show though. But anyway, Remy, thank you very much for joining me on the show. Really appreciate. And if anyone has any question, gonna have Remy's contacts in the description of the podcast. So feel free to reach out to him for any question about mobile infrastructure, 6G and beyond. Thanks again.
Okay.
Bye.
Well, thanks for having me.